Hello friends, today we will understand the concepts of deficit budgets. First one is fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit is that type of deficit which occurs when the excess of total government expenditure is there over total receipts in which borrowings are not included because borrowing is not a receipt in a given year. In other words, it can be said that it represents the amount that government needs to borrow to cover its expenses. Its formula is fiscal deficit is equal to total expenditure minus total receipt, in which borrowing is not included. Its impact: a high fiscal deficit can lead to unnecessary government expenditure, inflationary pressure on the economy, and increased debt burden because government has to borrow money. Second is revenue deficit. Revenue deficit occurs when total revenue expenditure of the government exceeds total revenue receipts. It signals that the government's revenue is insufficient to meet essential expenditures. So, government's essential expenditures are not met with the revenue which it receives. So, revenue deficit is equal to total revenue expenditure minus total revenue receipts. Its impact: revenue deficit leads to inflation and requires government to sell assets to cover the shortfall, affecting the whole economy. Third one is primary deficit. This primary deficit is the difference between total government expenditures in which interest payment is not included, interest is paid on debt, and total non-borrowed receipts. The receipts of the government which are not borrowed, it focuses on core budgetary operations. Its formula is primary deficit is equal to total expenditure in which interest payment is not included minus total non-borrowed receipts. Its significance is that it helps to assess the government's ability to manage its finances without relying on debt servicing. And the last one is budget deficit. Budget deficit occurs when spending exceeds income, and it applies not only governments but also to individuals, businesses, and organizations when their expenditure exceeds their income. A deficit must be paid, and if it is not paid, it contributes to debt accumulation. Its causes are unanticipated events, policies, or international deficit spending to stimulate growth or address economic challenges. So, budget deficit can have various effects on economy, which may be inflation, debt burden, or it needs corrective measures to check that deficit, as raising taxes or cutting spending.